Let me guess, you have bought the fancy planners, you've scheduled in the me time, you've said you were going to do it, but then something more urgent comes up and you don't actually take that time for yourself, the time that you said, this is the time that I'm going to do it. Well, what if I told you that you don't need to do more? The problem is not that you need to do more, squeeze more in, cram in this me time. The problem is that maybe, just maybe, you're thinking too small. I'm Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, where we help midlife emerging witchy women to come home to themselves, remember their magic, build their self trust and their confidence, and create a life that feels sturdy and it feels powerful no matter what is going on around them. Welcome home, Enchanted Sister. And we are talking about disrupting your status quo to make time for yourself, reclaim who you are, and experience a homecoming. This is part 2 of a 3-part video series on sacred sabbaticals when you definitely don't have time for one. But we are going to look at that in a whole new way. So often when women feel depleted and exhausted and like they can't remember who they are anymore, they, myself included, will start to dip their toes into self-care through bubble baths and bath bombs. And for me, in part 1, I shared my story of going to lunch by myself. And that's all just the beginning. These are ways to start to explore honoring our needs, but they don't quite fit the bill. They don't quite take care of that ache, that longing for deep connection with yourself. And that's because those are really maintenance forms of self care. So once you have become best friends with yourself again, you are trusting yourself, you know what your values are, you know who you are at a soul level. That is when we can sort of maintain that level of self care through all of the self care stuff, let's call it. But before then, we need a self reclamation. So many women in our community have experienced this for themselves, and it's through work that we do in our programming. And in our Enchanted Journey programming, we host a virtual retreat called Expedition to Soul. And some of what we explore in there is the big questions about who am I and what do I want to feel and what do I want to do with my energy, not my time, my energy. So you are not the only person who's asking these questions. I've been doing this work since 2016, and I happen to know that there are women all over the place asking these very questions, trying to find time for themselves, trying to carve out space that feels meaningful and connected so they can build a relationship with themselves and know who they are as they venture into the second half of life and they emerge on this magical secular spirituality journey where they see the universe in a whole new way. They see energy in a whole new way. They see plants and nature and seasons and moon phases in a whole new way. And we have to make space for that becoming. We have to make space for this inner relationship with ourselves that opens up our intuition to our inner wisdom, to our higher power, to the knowing that we all long to feel like is easy to access and second nature for us. So your soul is not asking for a face mask. It's not asking for a bath bomb. It's asking, my friend, Enchanted Sister, for a homecoming. To do this, to break through the walls that we've built up for self-preservation and perfectionism and survival and sort of guarding ourselves from the fear of rejection and being misunderstood as we move through life as people who are curious about all of the unseen around us. To break through that, we must create intentional spaces, intentional time, intentional containers to go deep, to go within. We must create these sacred sabbaticals to explore ourselves in ways we wouldn't normally, which is different from self-care. We can squeeze self-care into our daily lives through tea and taking time in the shower and using a bougie, lush face wash or lotion, but we can't squeeze transformation. We can't squeeze inner relationship into our daily lives. This is something that we must create this sacred sabbatical space to explore, even when we feel like we don't have the time for it. It's so interesting that when we do carve out space for ourselves and we treat our afternoon or a morning or whatever we can set aside as truly sacred, how much transformation can happen in one go versus all these scattered attempts at workbooks and using ChatGPT to ask questions about my soul's purpose or astrology or whatever it is you're turning to. I love astrology for a soul's purpose deep dive, by the way. But when we focus our energy in one container, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, it doesn't have to be all the time, but really carving out the space for that, transformation can occur so much faster because your energy is focused and it's not scattered on trying to see who you are while maintaining life around you. Often, the most radical thing that you can do for yourself is stop and listen to what your soul is trying to tell you. To listen, to truly hear, though, and cut through the noise of all the could haves, would haves, should haves, expectations, how things should be, what I need to do to be good and perfect and better, and all of this, we have to pause and create a sacred sabbatical. When you come home to yourself, when you remember who you are, when you reclaim your relationship with yourself at a soul level, you become unshakable. You become unwavering. You stop hesitating, and the people in your life will experience that for themselves when they witness you do it. So, all the things we're tending to, jobs and loved ones, responsibilities, pets, taking care of our homes, our communities, all of this that we're giving to the world, when we are in a deep relationship with our own selves, that giving amplifies, and other people witness the light that you are bringing to a situation, and they are invited to find it within themselves as well. My tip for you, if you feel like you don't have time for yourself, you don't have time for a sacred sabbatical, you don't have time to breathe and pause and really think, or when you do sit down to be with yourself, your mind starts to wander, you start to think of your to-do list, you get a little maybe claustrophobic in your own energy, my tip for you is to create what I like to call a quest pack. That is simply a bag or a basket that you put your favorite journal in, your favorite pens, a tarot deck or oracle card deck, maybe a snack. I'm a big fan of Built bars. They're a protein bar. They're good. Look them up. Maybe your favorite tea. We were just talking about tea with self-care. Perhaps some earbuds, or I love like the little squish toys to get stress out, maybe an herbal sachet that smells great and helps you relax. But create a quest pack for yourself so you can begin slow and steady to carve out a half an hour, then 1 hour, then 90 minutes for yourself. And you have everything that you would need to remind yourself that you want to get to know who you are. You want to dive into your soul self. You're creating a sacred sabbatical to explore what's going on in your inner world, not make another to-do list. And you have all of these spiritual tools that you love handy for that experience. So create a quest pack. This way, when you find yourself with some time, you are always ready for a quest, an expedition to soul, an enchanted journey, whatever you want to call it. Those are two things that we offer here at the Sisters Enchanted and would love to support you with if it's right for you. But as you go through your daily life on your own, you will have the tools available to you ready to go whenever you can start to carve out time for yourself, even when it feels like you don't have the time. We got to sneak it in. We start slow, we build. We say yes to ourselves one time for just a little bit. Maybe in my life, it was a lunch, and then it was an overnight, and then an adventure. And for you, it might just be a little bit of time in the morning before everybody wakes up, or time on your lunch break when you would normally scroll social media, or time in the evening when you'd be watching your fourth episode of something on Netflix. And you have your quest pack there to remind you of the journey that you are on to reclaim who you are, this becoming journey that you are on, this reclaiming your soul and your relationship with yourself. All right, sacred sabbaticals. Even when you don't have time, especially when you don't have time, it is more important than ever to find it, to get to know who you are before the next leg of your journey begins. All right, y'all, be sure to subscribe, like, Head to the comments. Let me know what you're putting in your quest pack. I'd love to hear about it. Inspire other people. Often folks might get hung up on doing it right, figuring out what to put in, and you sharing your ideas might help them move along. Thank you so much. Video 3 will be out in 1 week. And until next time, stay magic, Enchanted Sister.